Well. Good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gents. Welcome back to Hightop Sports. Busy last couple of hours here with Florida Gators. Huh? Going down to Tennessee, taking the L there in overtime, 23-17. Tennessee takes it. Top 8 team. Nico does not do anything fantastic, but we're unable to get it done. And for those of you that are new to this show, what I like to do is kind of give you a sober recap. You're able to digest the game. We have the call-in show afterwards. Everyone calls in, gives their opinions, and I kind of try to digest and then give you an overall perspective of how I feel of the game. And 3 years in of doing this is the first time where I don't know how I feel. And I kind of have learned through doing this is that everyone has a different perspective on it, and it's fun to watch because you kind of want to grab on and follow people that tell you what you want to hear, right? Like the Shane Matthews, those guys, that older crowd, they're very raw and kind of just give it to you how it is. They come from that 90s Florida Gator culture, so they're very black and white with how they look at things, and I love that. And then we got Trav, younger guy, 24 years old. He calls in last night. His perspective on it is much different because of what he's watched for Florida football. And everybody's right in their own way because their perspective, the lens they've watched Florida football through, is much different than everybody else. So their expectations, what they want to have happen, what they believe should happen is all different. And what I mean by that is a lot of us, like myself, who've been following this team, been watching this team week in and week out, doing a show every single Wednesday for the last 3 years in a row, except one or two, maybe because of whatever cruises, things like that. You followed this team. You've talked about this team. You've interviewed players. Watched every coach interview you could possibly imagine. You have expectations. You have thoughts on how this team should perform. And so when it doesn't do that, you get frustrated. And when you get frustrated, you start calling for heads. Because for me, myself, who's been Team Billy since the very beginning on this hype train, supporting him, we talked about it. He's divorced. We're divorced at this moment because of what he did to me in the Miami and Texas A&M game. Last night, I don't know what he did to me, right? It was worse because you gave me a sense of hope back. You gave me what I have been preaching for. You gave me what I thought we should have had the last 4 weeks in a row. You gave me what we should have had against Miami. You showed me what we should have had against A&M, right? The defense playing the way that it's played. Everybody being sound, everybody being content, playing just good up smash mouth football. The O-line held up. The scores don't show that in some areas, but the O-line played, I would say, pretty well, given the fact that this top-tier defensive line and what Tennessee brings, okay? It looked like a complete game, and it felt like that when things were rolling and you're kind of just in the motion of football, Florida football looked like Florida football, and Billy was rolling. And then it felt like when the lights got bright and you walked out onto stage and poof, it goes on to Billy, 4th and inches. You got to make a play, big guy. What are you going to do? Because we all know that when it comes down to it, you have a hard time making a good play. You dial up a jet sweep, which I'm not mad about it, but it gets shut down. Then you got Montreal Johnson running the ball down everybody's throat. Boom, 10 yards a clip. Boom, boom, boom on the one. Yeah, I need a pigskin length to get in. You give it to collarboneless Graham Mertz, which we wanted at last play, but that was when we had 250-pound quarterback DJ Lagway, not Graham Mertz. But it is what it is. He fumbles it. It's like the moment's there. You got to get it done, and Billy is trying to put his hands in and makes a mistake. And this is where we, as fans that have been following this through in and throughout, and myself included, is the same things continue to happen. You get 12 men on the football field, which Napier and his presser blamed it on his substitution. Some guy got injured, or a guy was injured and couldn't get off the field. Is what it is. Up until that point, special teams have been perfect. So I mean, how critical can we be? But that's a game-winning field goal that gets wiped off the board, right? The fumble again. People want to point to the players, point to these things, and try to find someone to blame, right? That's always the first thing that you do when we're frustrated. Is like whose fault? Who's at fault here? Is it Billy? Is it the players? Is it what is it? And Cody brought up a good point of like, look, if guys get their blocks in, the jet sweep gets executed. If Mertz doesn't fall back and get sacked, we get the field goal off. We're not rushing onto the football field because the time stops. If Mertz doesn't fumble the ball, we get a touchdown. All of these things, and all those things are very much true. I had a manager at work that was fantastic, and something that he would always say when we would have to be prepared is if we're trying to create a schedule or something, you have to be prepared for the intangibles, the unspoken for, right? So we would set a schedule, and he's like, well, we have to account for two and a half people to always call out every single day, whether it's sick, whether it's PTO, whether it's what have you. So some days you will be overstaffed, but you always have to be prepared for the what if scenarios. And I think that's where Billy lacks the capability is in game being prepared for the what ifs. He does not adjust. And this has been, I am beating the same drum that I have beaten for the last few years. Even last year when I was super supportive of Billy, I was very critical. Again, his 2 minute time management, how he manages in-game scenarios. It has always looked sus. Great job building a culture, great job building a staff, all these things. And I've even said, man, CEO, the guy does a great job. I think he's signs babies, kiss babies' heads, does all those things right. But when it comes down to calling plays and just having this dog mentality, yeah, I'm going to say it, dog mentality, he does not have it. I also kind of another great comparison is we see it with Austin Armstrong and Ron Roberts. Ron Roberts was on the sideline calling plays, the author of what this defense is. And I think Ron Roberts is an intelligence man. I think he's done a great job with his defense of putting together the scheme. And Austin Armstrong was somebody who was trying to implement that scheme and maybe struggled a little bit. But there was Armstrong, we loved his energy on the sideline, his ability to feel the pulse, his ability to feel the momentum and take advantage of it and be aggressive. And sometimes maybe it was too much. I think what they've done the last 2 weeks is made that adjustment. Okay, Ron, you go up into the box, be the kind of the level head, but let Armstrong feel the game and do what Armstrong does best. And you step in when you feel needed and kind of just give little tidbits, little pulsers, right? Beep, 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 and adjust accordingly. And I think it's done well. That's what Napier needs. Napier has zero pulse of the game. Somebody called in, I think it was Gator Nation last night, and said, look, momentum, you can't see it, but you can feel it. And I don't think Napier feels it at all. I think he ignores it. I don't think he wants to feel it. And I said this going into this game, my biggest concern was momentum, which we don't do well with, and on the road. We've looked pretty great on the road the last 2 games. Momentum, we still have yet to. And I don't blame it on the players. I blame it on the coaching. I don't believe Billy refuses to adjust to the momentum that is happening in the middle of the game. When you take a look at the stats, which even kills me even more, there's no scoreboard here. Cross the line, Florida leads in every statistical category except Russia. We missed it by a couple of yards there, 5 yards. But everything else, time of possession, 10 minutes, penalties, less than them. The penalties, yes, we had someone that was more of a timing. It wasn't the fact of lack of discipline or too many. It was just when we got him, it was like worst case scenario. When we're driving, we got 2, I believe, in overtime, which was absolutely just crushing. And so there's all those things. The other part of it, too, that I kind of want to address, because I've had my opinions on things with Montrell Johnson and Graham Mertz, and I say my comments, and when I say these things, I know I could very come back and bite me in the ass, right? I was very critical of Montrell, but last night that guy looked like an absolute killer, and I appreciated every single thing that he did last night. Graham Mertz played a great game up until he got hurt and non-contact injury. Unfortunately, it looks like he's probably done. I'm not trying to put that out there, but I was talking with Cam Carroll. You can kind of just, again, feeling momentum, feeling the energy of watching that conversation. It's probably not good. They were saying it was more of a calf. I thought it was a knee thing, but it looks like it could be a calf thing. Either way, we're looking at minimum 6 weeks probably. So it's the DJ Lagway show. That's where we're at with it. And people were kind of like, some guy was coming at me like, oh, you want a DJ? You wanted this? I'm like, DJ did his thing. I know he threw a pick, things like that. Those things are going to happen. Mistakes are going to happen from the young guy. You have to anticipate that. But all in all, I mean, I think he has a great feel of the game. I think he's a baller. I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to do. As for Billy Napier, I know a lot of people, this is where we kind of, the feel of Gator Nation, you've got, I would say, about 85%, and they've been calling for his head for the last 2 weeks. I think he simmered down things a little bit, but it's going to ramp back up. But I don't see Billy Napier going anywhere. I just don't. Again, the reason being is because the perspective of this game is that Tennessee was 15-point favorites, right? So when you're a 2 touchdown underdog and you go out there and you go toe-to-toe with the number 8 team in the country, it helps. Now, like I said, there's different perspectives of this. I think all of us here at home can look at that Tennessee team and say, hey, it's not a number 8 team. That's not me being a hater. They didn't look great. Nico doesn't look that fantastic. They're beatable. They'll probably lose 3 to 4 games this year if I had to guess, just given their schedule. And that's not a knock on Tennessee. I think they're still doing great things, but they're not there yet. Nico will be much better next year. So for me, it's like, yeah, they're a number 8 team. They're supposed to be a better team. Going into this game, everything that I said on that Wednesday show came to fruition. They're a very similar team to the UCF. Run the ball very effectively, shut down the run, forced Nico to make decisions. He made bad throws that probably should have hit. They were wide open, but again, just not doing them enough. Make him make the decision. Even Billy said in his presser, like, we want him to force him to throw the football, i.e., we want him to make mistakes. The game played right into our hand. We had a fumble when we Didn't deserve it, but we got it. And we had interceptions when we didn't when we played well. We got kind of were getting burned. We moved the ball effectively. Our red zones was atrocious. That was huge. I think we were 1 for 4 in the first half. Look, I will stand by this because people try to point to where we lost the game. It's because when Mertz went down. It's because when Montreal went down. It's because the game was lost in the first 2 quarters. And I hate to kind of put it into that perspective, but with the game, we should have been up 30-20, 23. If we the second half we played the way that we did, nothing changes. But the first half we execute on 2 of those possessions. Even if we just make a field goal and a touchdown, there's 10 more points, 27-23. Not even 27-17. Right? So there's just those are to me where the game was lost. I'm not going to put it because again, the other errors that happened, the fumbles, the injuries, those are things that you have to be prepared for. Those are parts of the game. The moment you have control is where we were not able to execute. So again, as for Billy going anywhere, I don't see him leaving for the Kentucky game. There's no way, no how. You take a number 8 team on the road at night in a hostile environment to overtime, lose it by the skin of your teeth. DJ Lagway is coming in. You kind of almost have to ride this thing out at this point. Firing him in the midway through the season, I don't know what it would do at this point. The redshirt thing I know is a big point of conversation. We'll see how this plays going into next week. Eugene Wilson is somebody who we've been keeping an eye on. Wasn't utilized a lot last night. Hawkins, who was used the game before, didn't see him at all, I don't believe. We'll do more breakdowns, obviously, with Stephen Harris. But, yeah, I don't know how to feel. I usually, when I record these videos, I can have like a start to finish with a good conversation, with good thoughts. I got a pit in my stomach. And I'm a very transparent, honest guy, and that's how I feel. I feel like I don't know how to feel. I don't know what to say, and I'm trying to give you my perspective of the game, my thoughts on it. And again, when I learned from last night, when you call a lot of people, and I kind of talked about it with Trav, is everybody watches the game through a different lens. So everyone's going to have a different opinion about it. And when the problem is people's opinions, they feel that their opinion's right because of how they feel, and everybody is right to an extent. Ultimately, we all, again, at the end of the day, what I always say is we would just want to win. Winning fixes everything. Winning cures everything. For me, I think the one thing, regardless of the lens that you watch this game through, that we can all agree on is the same things continue to happen. The same, you can't do the same thing and expect change. It's insanity. And that's where the Napier stuff comes into play of like, you've changed staff, you've changed players, you've done these things, but the same mistakes, the same issues continue to happen. At the end of the day, it goes back to the top of the food chain, which is Billy Napier. That's how I look at it. If the same stuff continues to happen, you can point to whoever you want to point to, but it's the guy leading the ship. It's the same stuff. So again, I don't expect him to be gone or anytime soon. So I was calling for him, like it is what it is. I'm excited for the DJ Lagway, and how I will address this and how I do every single week is we'll cry about it today. We'll have our Monday breakdown show tomorrow where I'll be probably still a little frustrated because we'll have another presser. Come Wednesday, I'll be focused on Kentucky, and it's a new week, new whatever. Let's go rock and roll. Let's go win a football game. And that's how I'm going to always approach these things until it changes. Lane Kiffin loses to LSU. Everyone's asking me my thoughts on head coaches. I don't have one. I do not have one. And maybe that's bad for me not to have one. But I'm tired of getting roasted for having an opinion on something that I have zero control over. And when it comes to the coaching staff, I have zero control over. So the last thing I'm going to do is give you a list, and some random no-name person who nobody even circle pops up, and it's like, you're an idiot. It's like, yeah, I no clue what Scott Strickland has under his belt. The guy doesn't want to fire Billy Napier. I'm sure he hasn't even thought of it yet. So I don't have an opinion about it. I hope you guys have a phenomenal Sunday. Be sure to smash the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you boys in the next one. Peace and love, baby.